Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Motor City Mad Mouth Show here in Kissimmee, Florida. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Mad Mouth. Please be joined by my co-host on Sports Wrap, Dennis Maruk, the legendary hockey player who played for the Washington Capitals, Minnesota North Stars, Cleveland Barons, and the California Golden Seals. Dennis, glad to have you live.
Great to be here, and let's talk some hockey.
All right, well, no, you have to tell me what GMTA stands for.
Great minds think alike. There you go.
Now we get to talk about hockey. This guy's a quick study. And by the way, I got to tell everybody out here, I'm your agent, right?
You got it. Yeah, just keep me going.
I am
Keep me
his
going.
agent, people.
Yeah,
I am this guy's agent.
I'm the rookie, and you're the star.
Yeah, well, no, you're the star. I'm the agent. That's all. Don't give me too much credit. I've only been doing this forever, but it doesn't matter. Guys like you make me look good. All right, well, let's start talking hockey, and that's this. All right, I have to ask you, Dennis, state the reason why you do belong in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Well, I mean, I had a great career, 14 years, and I started out. I'm 5'8", 175 pounds. In 1975, I got drafted by California Golden Seals, and I didn't get a lot of exposure. But though I had that for sure, I had 30 goals, and I was the second or third in the rookie voting. So I played 14 years, had almost 900 points in 900 games, and my first 4 or 5 years, the teams were not real successful, and so I think that's where I didn't get a lot of exposure, and I think I'm one of so many players that that didn't get the exposure that should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and hopefully one day, before I see the big guy up there, and that I'll be able to get in. But I mean, am I going to lose any sleep over it? No. I had a dream as a boy, and I made it to the National Hockey League, and I think that's the most important thing.
Well, one of my great friends is in the same boat that you're in, Don Mattingly. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame as well. When I could put you and Don Mattingly in the same sentence, that says an awful lot because you two are very close to me, and I always go to bat for people that I do believe deserve their recognition. And you and Donnie, I've studied your career for a lot of times. I think it's an unfortunate shame that you're not in there.
Well, I think it's an honor to be put in with his name. I watched him play baseball, and I thought he was a great baseball player, and he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame there. So I hope he gets it, and I think he's coaching now, isn't he? Did he sign on with Philly? Is that right?
Well, yeah, the guy's the interim manager for the
Phillies.
Phillies.
There you go. So, and he was with the Blue Jays. He was with the Blue Jays last year.
Right.
So, and I was surprised that they let him go. Because he's a great man. Why let a guy like that go? And so I'm hoping he gets in the the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Well, he left Toronto, but Miami made the mistake letting him go. And my relationship with Don goes back to the 80s, and the Marlins let him go. But I think Don also, keep in mind, Dennis, did everything he could with Miami, a small market team that doesn't spend any money either.
Yeah, it's like the Twins. They're like that too,
Right.
and it's just too bad. That happens in sports, and the rich get richer. They spend a lot of money, like the Yankees and all that, and the Dodgers and all that. Look who's in the World Series, Dodgers and the Yankees. So I mean, you sometimes you got to spend some money, and and that's too bad that Don was involved with the team in Miami. They didn't spend money.
That's true. All right, let's talk about your biggest moments and accomplishments in your National Hockey League career.
Well, making it to the National Hockey League was probably the number one, because I was pretty much told I was too small to play in a big man's game, and that gave me a little drive and a little adversity to make it, and I had a good. I was even my it's kind of cute because the general manager told my agent, which was Boom Boom Jeffrey, on that. Dennis is going to go play in the minors for a couple of years, and we'll see how he does. And my agent, Boom Boom, says, "My Denny score you a lot of goal. He no play no minor. He play in the big team." And they didn't even offer me a contract. First exhibition game, I scored a couple goals. So that started everything right there. That was a big thing then, and ended up signing a contract, made the team, and played 14 years. I had a 50-goal season. I had a 60-goal season. There's only been 23 players that have ever done that in the National Hockey since day one. and I'm a two-time All-Star. I played 4 years over in Europe in the World Championships with Team Canada. So I've had some great exposure internationally with hockey. But those are, I would say, those things, and then the main big one would be the All-Star game in Washington in '82, where the Euro had 60 goals. I mean, I was the last one introduced out of all the players, and the ovation. It makes you think back to those days, how wonderful it was, and the ovation I got because Gretzky was there, Coffey, you name all the top players are in the All-Star game, but my ovation it lasted for about 5-6 minutes.
That had to be really surreal, wasn't it? A 5 or 6 minute ovation in the place where you're playing. That's amazing. Blows me away.
Yeah, it was kind of neat because they're my home fans, and so it was really. So my mom and dad were there, and some friends, and it was really a special time. And we got to have lunch at the White House that year too with Ronald Reagan. So it was kind of a special time. Yeah.
I will say, and I don't talk politics, Ronald Reagan was my all-time favorite president. I've always loved Ronald Reagan and had a chance to visit his museum in California. All right, so let's talk about your book. What made you decide to write it, and what should readers expect to get out of it?
I think decided to write it with a fellow by the name of Ken Reed, who's on Sportsnet in Canada, and he contacted me to do it a couple times to do it, and I kind of was not really excited about doing it, but we talked about a lot of stories and all that, and we just went on and on about it, and I finally decided to do it. But I had some ways that I wanted it done. I was 60 years old. I scored 60 goals, and I wanted 60 chapters, just like the great author James Patterson writes his books, a lot of small chapters, and that's how we went ahead and did it, and things worked out pretty good.
All right, when you talk about 60 chapters, though, you also scored 60 goals. Is there a little bit of a mindset between 60 chapters, 60 goals?
Yeah, I'm 60 years old, so that's how. And the story was about the book of people. The title is The Unforgettable Story of Hockey's Unforgotten 60-Goal Man. They don't talk about my name, other 60-goal scorers. They talk about Gretzky, Brett Hall, all these guys. But my name doesn't really come up when you do an interview. So that's kind of what you read the book that some people may say I was kind of complaining about certain things that I didn't get the recognition. No, I put in the book that it's not all peaches and cream being an athlete and dealing with ups and downs and negative and positive things that went on. And so I did write a few things in there. A bunch of stories are in there, great to read. It's a real simple read. Some of the pages are 3 or 4 pages, but they're stories that people, when they read it, they'll go, oh, what did he do next? What did he do next?
Right.
There you go.
Well, one of the new segments which is going to be introduced on Sports Wrap is Dennis is going to have his own segment, and he's going to be able to come up with stories. But you know what? When I send him the topic list, there's going to be question mark. He's going to have all day to think about them. So, because you only had so many stories there, you're going to share them with our audience, Dennis. How do you like that? That's what it came out of here. So we're far from done with you because I'm your agent. Don't forget that. You got to make sure you come up with a story tonight on Sports Wrap.
Well, I think a lot of people, when they listen to Sports Wrap and the other podcasts, is they like to hear stories. They like to see, because they don't, on a day-to-day basis, they don't hear it or they don't read it in paper or magazine or book or whatever. And there's just so many stories that athletes have to tell.
Well, don't worry. You're going to get your opportunity to it. So how would Gordie Howe fit in today's NHL?
Well, he's one of the top players ever play the game. And I don't think he'd have any problem playing the game today. He's Mr. Elbow, good with the puck, and was very strong to get knocked off the puck. So he'd do. I would say the only negative thing is speed. I don't think he was the fastest, just like Gretzky. They were so good, but they weren't the fastest skater in the game. And I think that's the only thing. Other than that, he'd be fine.
So let's talk about Wayne Gretzky. would Wayne Gretzky get beat up in the original 6 era? Because I've always been a firm believer they played each other 9 million times, and after you see an opponent with all the familiarity, that I personally, I'll just give you my opinion on this, and then you can provide me with yours as well. I think Gretzky wouldn't have nearly the stats that he does in the original 6 because he'd be a marked man, and I don't know how many protectors you had then, but I don't think he gets nearly the numbers that he has playing it in the NHL afterwards.
Well, I think the original 6 they don't play so many games, right?
Right.
So I mean, when he was dealing with all those records, what was there, 20 or 21 teams?
Right.
So he was playing more games.
Exactly.
And the team was unbelievable that they had. Their team of the '80s, they had so many great goal scorers on that team that you can talk about for hours. And I think that he was just, as I said, he was not the fastest skater. He didn't have the hardest shot, but he knew where to put the puck in the net. And he knew where to pass the puck to his teammates, who could put the puck in the net, too, that had better shots. Paul Coffey, Yari Curry, Glenn Anderson, Mark Messier. Right. You go down line, Isa Tikin, and all these guys were unbelievable. And so I think that a guy like Gretzky can be, in the original 6, he wouldn't get as many points because, A, the games, there wasn't a lot of games. And he had his, what do you call it? He had his bodyguards in Edmonton.
Right.
Would he have his bodyguards in the original 6? Probably.
Right, and even if we were to expand it to 12, you're still not going to have as many bodyguards with 12 until you have the watered down league where you have 30 and back then 20, 25. So again, you said the key word bodyguards, and we all know full well that back then it was a much more physical era. And there was a book that actually was put out called Blood on the Ice, and I think Wayne Gretzky would struggle there.
Well, I think it's just a matter of who's playing on the teams. And you look at New York, did they have a tough lineup? You look at Chicago, did they have a tough lineup? You look at Montreal, their talent was unbelievable in Montreal in the original 6. Look how many Stanley Cups they won, and they're still number 1. So you look at Chicago, who had a good team, but they just didn't have, they're still on Montreal. And the Rangers were not. They were okay. They weren't overly talented, but they were okay. But Montreal was just a phenomenal team.
Well, it's funny how you talk about Montreal because that leads into my next question, back to GMTA. Why has it been so long since a Canadian team hasn't won a Stanley Cup, knowing there are a lot more teams, a lot more tiers to get to?
Well, there's just so many parity. I mean, I think players get to go wherever they want now. They have control, and I think that's a big part of why Canadian. I mean, you look at a lot of the American teams that on their team. There's probably a good 30-40% they're Canadians. Right. They're on the team. So you look at Montreal. They're in the playoffs this year. And they're doing pretty good. So who knows? They may be the team this year, but I don't think so. I don't think they will. And why? I just think because as the players have the opportunity to go in different. Edmonton, they won it in the 80s. They haven't had an opportunity. They got two of the greatest players playing the game, right. And they still can't win the Stanley Cup because their goaltending was not good. Their bottom 6 were not good. Otherwise, you look at Colorado today. Their team won the President's Cup. They're down 3 games to zip. They may get beat out next game. But there you go. There's that percentage. The team that wins the most points in the season wins the President's Cup, and they don't usually win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, we've seen that drill all too many times.
It's very low.
That's true. So do you like the current playoff format, or should they go to the 1-8, 2-7, so forth?
I think Mr. Bettman's done a great job with the NHL, how valued their teams are right now. But I don't think he's going to change. I don't like the playoff format, and I don't think he'll change while he's still in as commissioner. I think someone new has to come in. I believe when you have a good year like Colorado had a great year, they should be rewarded. They should either get a bye or a bye in the first round, or 1 versus 8 in their conference, or 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15. I think that's the problem is the travel. Right. The cost of travel, everything. But I think they could do it one versus in their conference, 1 through 8. Yeah, I really do. Not 1 through 16, because then you're going all over the map, all over the world. But I with Bettman in there, I think he's done a fabulous job to the value of the NHL. But playoff wise, everybody wants to change.
Well, Gary Bettman's done a great job because hockey was practically broke when he took it over, and he's been able to get it back on national television for sure. Hockey was buying airtime by the time he was in there.
Well, and it's not big money. They make good money, but not like football or baseball or whatever. Football is unbelievable.
Yeah.
They only got 8 games. We got 42 home games. 41, 42 games. So that's a lot games to go to, and people don't go to a lot of them.
So tell me, who do you feel is the greatest NHL player of all time?
As I said earlier, that's a tough question. I would have to say during my time, and I played against a lot of the greats, Phil Esposito, Bobby Orr, all those guys. I played against them my first 3 years, and they were unbelievable. But I would have to say what I've seen one man do is Wayne Gretzky. Mario Lemieux is right there. Mario got hurt. Mario didn't have the lineup. If Mario had the lineup that Gretzky had all those years, I think Mario Lemieux would have had more points, I think. I really do. But during that time, I would say Gretzky.
Okay, so that leads me to my next question. GMTA, this guy knows the drill all too much. Scott Morganoff, Motor City Man Mouth Show here in Kissimmee, Florida with Dennis Maruk. I've had some great memories here in Kissimmee, Florida. Used to cover the Florida State League All-Star Game many years ago when the technology, when it came to phone lines, was no good. Then came back many years later when the Tigers played the Astros, and I was able to get my situation done. If you want to find out about those stories, go to Lessons from the Microphone, tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. That one's in there. So let's talk about how would Connor McDavid, Alex Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, and Mario Lemieux fare in the original 6. How do you think they would fare?
I think they would all do just fine. I think they're all great hockey players. As we say, they wouldn't have as many points because of the not as many games. But I think they'll be just all fine. They're all great hockey players, and you look at their speed, you look at how they play and what they can do for their team. So they would be the top stars too.
Let's talk about the original 6 per se, okay? Number 1, the Red Wings, obviously a bit of playoff drought. Toronto hasn't won a championship since '67. How much better is the National Hockey League, Dennis, when all the original 6 teams are relevant in the playoffs as well as competing for national Stanley Cup championships?
Well, I mean, as I said earlier, the Montreal Canadiens had a great lot of French Canadian hockey players, and they had their junior teams. So they were able to have a strong team for many, many years. And I'm one of the players, and I'm not going to say his name, but a little bit of fire somewhere along the line. But one of the players told me he won 7 Stanley Cups with their coach. If they had a better coach, they would have won 4 more. So, and I'm not going to say who, but that's just the way Montreal was. That's how great they were. And then you go down the line of the other teams. Look at Detroit. They had Gordie Howe, Alex Delvecchio, Normie Ullman. God, in Toronto Maple Leafs. Look who they had. Bobby Bond, Johnny Bauer. You go down the list. They had great hockey, but great hockey players. But I think that what happened was the seasons were short, and they only had 6 teams. You want to play each team 20 times? No.
Well, you get sick of each other after a while, and and how many teeth are you going to get knocked out? Let's talk about Florida. We're in the state of Florida, and for the first time in quite a few years, the Lightning and the Panthers aren't competing for a Stanley Cup championship. Did you ever think hockey would do this well in the state of Florida?
Well, I guess when the time I was playing, I didn't really know, but I was with the California Golden Seals. So, and we didn't get a lot of attendance, and we eventually had to move. So, I was kind of questionable if it was ever going to work out. But look at what's going on. Both teams have won the Stanley Cup, and this year they had injuries. Florida Panthers, Tampa was kind of changed a little bit, but they were right there. I think that is so awesome that in Florida that youth hockey is really exploding all over, especially in Florida. And the hardest thing is getting the ice rinks. They don't have enough ice rinks for these kids. The kids love the game. They love it when they go to the game with their parents and they go, "I gotta play, Mom and Dad. I want to play hockey." And hockey's not a cheap sport. Very expensive sport for kids and families growing up. So I know because I got 2 grandkids playing.
All right, let's talk about the fact that at one point you wanted to be traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Tell me a little bit about that.
I was in Minnesota with the North Stars, and I had played 10 years, and I got asked to go over to Switzerland to play in a team. I had a great contract, and I says, "No, I want to play in the NHL." So I went and talked to my GM, which is Lou Nanny, and with the North Stars, and he's the one that traded me to the Washington Capitals, and I ended up scoring 50, 60 goals. So I said, "Lou, trade me back to Toronto. I want to play in front of my family. I want to play in front of my hometown. I want to play with my friends, and all that." He said, "I'm not trading to Toronto. There's no way." We were in the same division. They called it the Chuck Norris division at that time.
Right.
And he said, "I'm not trading to Toronto. You're gonna do the same thing I traded to Washington. You outscore. You do this, and I get looked at pretty bad." So he didn't trade me. But I ended up staying. He ended up paying me well in Minnesota, and I ended up playing 4 more years.
Yeah, that's a pretty good story. That's why I had you bring it up here. All right, I have no choice but to ask you this question, but I enjoyed many, many years ago in the United States when you talk about the conflict on ice with the Philadelphia Flyers and the Russians. What's your best recollection of that, how the Flyers actually went out there and were a unifying force of this country the way they faced off against the Russians?
Well, I played international, as I told you. I scored a goal against Stretchak. I play against some great hockey players over there, those Russians. But they're a little chippy and dirty. They don't use a body, they use a stick more. And I don't mind saying that because that's the way it was. Flyers were a team that were tough in NHL. And they were good with a stick. They were good with a stick too. And they just destroyed the Russians with the way they're abusive, the fighting, the kicking, and all that cross-check style. But that was part of the game then, and with the Flyers during our time, there was slashing, there was cross-checking, there was all that kind of stuff going on. You can't do it now today. So I think it was different then. The hockey was different. The hockey was tougher, but. For the Russians to leave the ice there that one time, they had enough. But those guys are strong. They came back. They came back and played. They're excellent hockey players. The Russians are excellent hockey players. You can go down list. My buddy Ovechkin, look what he's done. I mean, there's so many. Datsuk, all those guys, great hockey players, and it's just too bad that had to happen.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder, though, a little bit, though, Dennis, because I was, back at the time when I was growing up as a kid, Jimmy Rutherford played for the Detroit Red Wings. But more importantly, the Red Wings at that time were considered the Dead Wings. But when they played the Flyers, it was entertaining because you had the Broad Street Bullies, and Brian Bugsy Watson was a guy you're probably familiar with a little bit, too. And it was just fun entertainment. If the Wings weren't good on the ice, at least they were, the Flyers and the Red Wings were at least 1 and 2 in penalty minutes.
Well, there was a lot of fighting, I played for the Capitals, and I played with Bugsy. And Bugsy was a great man. He had a restaurant, and Alexander, I think he's passed away not too long ago, and just a great man. And we'd all go over to his restaurant, but that was a tough cookie. He didn't have much of a hockey, but boy, could he fight, and he hit, and he was really tough. And that's just the way he played, and that's what got him to the NHL. A lot of players during the original 6 and during, about 5 or 6 more years after that, they got to the NHL because they were tough, strong, and aggressive players, and they made it, and the teams needed that because they had to protect the good scorers.
Dennis Maruk and Scott Morganroth here, Kissimmee, Florida, Motor City Mad Mouse Show. A few more questions I want to ask about you. Number one, first of all, you obviously told me you like other sports. So what are some of your other favorite sports?
My other favorite sports, I would say, is football, baseball, golf, tennis. Those are probably some pretty good sports that I like. Soccer's okay. I Basketball. I like basketball too. But in Minnesota, being there, I have to cheer for the Timberwolves. My grandkids are there, so I got to cheer for them. The Vikings. I love the Vikings. I have to cheer against the Packers. We don't like the Packers. I can't even. No, but that's just the way the rivalry was. And baseball, I like the Yankees. I've been a Yankee fan. Football, I'm a Buffalo Bill and Vikings. I was a Raider fan because I played in California with the Golden Seals, and a noon game would be the Raiders be playing. I'd go watch them, and then after my morning skate, and then get something to eat, and then come right over and play with the Seals at 7 o'clock. So those are the teams there, and tennis. There's so many great tennis players out there, and I just think it's a great sport.
Well, so let me ask you, do you follow a lot of these teams that you played for or the cities that you were in as well? Because obviously each of those cities meant a lot to you.
Yeah, I would say Washington Capitals, the Minnesota North Stars. So they're not in the league, so I cheer for Dallas because they moved to Dallas, and because of what I did in Washington and what's always done, I cheer for the Capitals. But I also got to cheer for the Toronto Maple Leafs because I grew up from watching Hockey Night in Canada, the Toronto Maple Leafs, as a kid, and I had a dream to make it to the NHL, and I made it. So even though I didn't get traded to play for the Maple Leafs, I still cheer for them.
Well, I have to ask you now that you brought Hockey Nut Canada up, who would you say the greatest hockey broadcaster has ever, whether it's play-by-play or whether it's color comment? Because there's been a lot of great ones through the years, even in the United States. Dan Kelly is one guy I used to love watching, but I'm only mentioning him, and there's a million other ones. But, these are the guys that were calling all your accomplishments.
I would say Bob Cole.
Okay.
Bob Cole was one of them. Danny Gallivan in Montreal. Let's see here. I can't think of another one right now. Another guy that did a real good job with Minnesota was Al Shaver.
Okay.
He didn't get a lot of credit, didn't get a lot of exposure, but he did a great job doing the color. Yeah. So that's would be my guys.
So how do you like the coverage that you're seeing in this day's NHL with TBS and ESPN?
Well, I don't watch too much of the networks in the States because I'm in Canada. So I got when there's NBC on, I think what's his name, the fellow who works with Subban and Mark Messier. I forget Dan. I forget. He does a good job. And soon the more he can talk and not PK Subban, it'll be better.
Okay.
And in Canada, you've got a few guys who've done really well, and with Sportsnet and I can't think of the internet and the fellow's name, but they do a good job there.
All right, one last thing I want to ask you about. Let's talk about the United States winning the gold medal in the Olympics. Any thoughts about how far USA Hockey's come? Obviously, this was huge for the U.S. in terms of USA Hockey.
Well, yeah, both girls and boys won, right?
Right.
And I think if you look at the games, Canadians did outplay them, both on the girls and the guys, but they didn't get the breaks. U.S. got the breaks.
Right.
Good goaltending. It was a close game, and the rivalry is so strong. It's unbelievable with the girls and the guys.
My final question, because I am your agent, okay, and I love talking about it because this guy's the greatest anyways. If there were any things that you could change in your NHL career or do-overs, and it's hard to just reminisce, what would it be?
Well, I think I played junior and then got drafted. I miss college years. I miss I for some talking to everybody that did it and all that. I went right from school, high school to pros basically. I didn't go the college road, which my son did, and I hear so many great stories of how it was playing. So I think if I had to change, even though I had 3 great years of junior hockey, I won the most valuable player, I won rookie of the year. Our team didn't win the Memorial Cup, but we made the playoffs. But I would say going to college and playing hockey.
So then with that said, you give me a follow-up. I have to ask another one. How would you say that the college system is becoming in terms of being a feeder system for the NHL? A few years ago, let's face it, we know you had NIL, but Western Michigan came away with a title and came out of nowhere to do it. Of course, Denver always wins them, and Wisconsin's very strong, Michigan State, and those are just to name a few.
They've changed the rules for collegiate hockey players now, and collegiate sports. They're getting paid now.
Right.
They're I don't know if I could say that, but they are. The college players at football. They get most of the money goes to the football and the basketball players in collegiate sports. But the hockey players, look at McKenna, got $750,000 to go play at Penn State as a Canadian. He'll be the number 1 draft pick in the NHL this year, number 1 or 2 for sure. So the American kids, when the U.S. won the gold medal in 1980. That changed everything for United States hockey. Herb Brooks coached that team. That changed everything for United States hockey. It was exposure was unbelievable. And now the kids, all young kids wanted to be on a gold medal. They wanted to be on the American team. And the USA program is unbelievable. I saw it, where these players go and get trained and all that. I think it's great to see. It used to be just mainly Canadians, right? Now it's Europeans, Americans, and the percentage is a lot lower for Canadians to be usually be 90% of Canadians playing in national hockey. Now it's real low, and but there's still a lot of Canadians playing, making it, but there's more and more and more Americans.
Well, Memorial Day here, everybody. The Motor City Man Mouse Show. Please be joined by my co-host, Dennis Maruk. You see these 2 shows, books, Lessons from Microphone, Dennis Maruk? They're going to be promoted regularly on our platform as well. So get used to looking at them because they are going to be on there a lot as well. So also, some other notes I want to mention. Please check out the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel and hit the red subscribe button for more of these updates. And we're also going to be introducing a travel channel soon to be announced. So that'll be something that we're looking forward to doing as well. Also check out our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. My book can actually be purchased on Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and there's an audio version out there as well. So what can I say? Dennis, this is a dream come true for me. I have an opportunity to have my co-host here in Florida. And you know what? Like I said, it's hard to believe that you and I met on LinkedIn, people. You can meet guys like this on LinkedIn. And I talk about my best find of the year. This guy is it. We're hoping to get Dennis on some more other shows as well. But we're happy that he's on Sports Rap. And this guy, I've always loved the way you play. But I'll tell you, I never thought I'd be a teammate with somebody as great as you. You're a Hall of Famer in more ways than one. Not only on the ice, but off the ice. Hall of Fame friend and somebody that views you as a part of our family. So the Motor City Mad Mouse Show here in Kissimmee, Florida. My name is Scott Morgan, Motor City Mad Mouse. Please be joined by my friend and partner, Dennis Rook, but I'm your agent. Great minds think alike.
That's right, GMTA.
Yeah, there you go. I'll tell you, I'm going to train this guy a lot more tricks, and wait till he goes ahead and starts reading my book. My goal is to make sure that if he didn't know a lot about the business, he will. And I tell you, he's a quick study anyways. And by the way, we heard that little noise in the background. You know what? I could have sworn I was in a hockey rink when I saw that emergency thing go off because of the bells, but no disrespect to those that had to deal with it. Yeah, but I don't know. I felt like there was a little bit of hockey inside of me in Sunshine State. So it is all great. So once again, I want to thank everybody joining us, and also please share this show as well as everything else on our network as well. God bless, Dennis. You are the best, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you again down the road. And what can I say? I appreciate, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this trip with your family. But you, to me, are family. Please don't ever forget that, okay?
Thank you. I won't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.